A murder-suicide involving a separated couple has raised questions about how police respond to women at risk of serious harm or death. Earlier this year, Melbourne woman Kelly Thompson was murdered by her former partner Wayne Wood after numerous breaches of an intervention order and in spite of dozens of calls to police. Shockingly, Wood's presence in her house the night he killed her, a clear breach of the intervention order, was reported to police by worried neighbours, but police did nothing. Dan Oakes reports.
Despite the cold, a small group gathered on the steps of Victoria's State Parliament this week to take a stand against domestic violence.
Family violence is a state emergency.
A red rose was laid in memory of 29 women killed by their partners in the last 12 months. One of them was Kelly Thompson.
She was always happy, yeah. She loved life.
Vibrant, bubbly, constant smile on her face, constantly.
Wendy and John Thompson are struggling to cope with the brutal murder of their daughter, Kelly.
It's just got to change. And that will only change when faults are put out there for the whole community to see.
In February this year, the 43-year-old was killed by her former partner, who then killed himself. It was yet another case of a violent man unwilling to accept the woman's decision to leave. Kelly's murder has exposed what the Thompsons see as a catastrophic failing by police to protect women like their daughter.
And they've failed, miserably failed. And they've failed two people that are now dead and families that are shattered. And it should never have happened.
Kelly had been in a relationship with truck driver Wayne Wood since 2009.
They seemed quite happy. He seemed pretty harmless, you know, sort of quiet sort of a fella. And, you know, sort of they were happy and that was it.
But during an overseas trip late last year, Wood's violent streak emerged.
It wasn't until she came home that she started opening up about what had happened over there, how he'd locked her in hotel rooms and choked her a few times.
The violence escalated. After the couple argued on New Year's Day, Wood tried to run Kelly over with his car. Police were called and they advised Kelly to take out an intervention order. An order was granted, preventing Wood from contacting Kelly or going within 200 metres of her house. But he continued to harass and stalk her. 8 days after the order, while Kelly was having dinner with friends at a suburban hotel, Wood turned up and confronted Kelly and her friends. Kelly made a statement to police. That week, Kelly's phone records show she called the police 10 times. Kelly told her parents she was living in fear of Wayne Wood.
I believe if they'd locked him up and, or, you know, took him off the scene, well, she'd have still been alive.
Yeah, any kind of intervention from the police to Wayne that would have warned him off or had some kind of consequence for his action, and he wouldn't have accelerated to the point that he did.
Kelly's phone records show she made a total of 34 calls to Wyndham Police in the weeks leading up to her death. Victoria Police will not comment on the content of those calls, as the case is now before the coroner.
It was as if, you know, they were saying it's okay. The intervention order's there, you take notice of it or you don't, but we're not going to do anything. So he just kept going.
On Saturday, February 7th, as a condition of the intervention order, police escorted Wayne Wood to Kelly's Point Cook home so he could remove his belongings. However, late the next night, neighbours noticed Wood hanging around the house. Her next-door neighbour texted her a warning. The neighbours then watched with growing concern through the window at what unfolded next door.
Shortly before midnight, there was a call made to police by one of Kelly's neighbours, concerned about his proximity and also that he'd in fact been sighted in her bathroom. The caller was told, "Oh, don't worry about it, call us back if you hear screaming or breaking glass."
It was not until 3 days later, after Wood's brother also phoned police, that they went to the house and found Wood and Kelly's bodies. Kelly had been repeatedly stabbed. Wood had then killed himself.
Life's not the same anymore. Like, the joy's not there.
John and Wendy Thompson's grief over their daughter's death was compounded when they learned Kelly's murder was being investigated by colleagues of the local police they say failed to protect their daughter.
It smacks of conflict of interest from the bottom right through.
If people from the same station are investigating themselves, there's going to be a very accurate perception from the public that there's a conflict of interest.
This week, after numerous inquiries by 7:30, Victoria Police admitted that the investigation should never have been carried out by local detectives.
We actually believed that the investigation was being conducted from outside the division. It's only when the families raised it that we've understood that the system's broken down there somewhere. It concerns me, it concerns the Chief Commissioner, it concerns the people down the line. The system's failed in ensuring that what we thought would occur has occurred. So we'll be looking into that and making sure it doesn't occur again.
It has also emerged that Victoria Police's Professional Standards Command, PSC, was overseeing the investigation, but failed to identify the clear conflict of interest.
Why did someone in PSC not point out the conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest at play here?
That's a question I've asked as well, Dan. I don't have an answer as yet, but it's certainly something that should have been picked up.
The Thompsons' lawyer says Kelly's case raises serious questions about the ability of intervention orders to protect the most at-risk women.
Women are brought into the system, they're told, "We'll keep you safe, here's your order," but if it's not enforced by police, it's worse than nothing because in fact they've put themselves in a dangerous situation by trying to leave. And then the protection is not there, leaving them even more vulnerable.
Wendy and John Thompson now care for Kelly's dog, Roxy, who spent 3 days beside Kelly's body following her murder. The dog provides some comfort to the Thompsons, but their pain is ever present.
I'm never going to hear her ring me and say, "Hey Mum, how do I cook this?" Or "What do I do with this, Mum?" And how many times do I walk around the house and think, "Oh, just ring Kelly. I'll ring you and I'll ask you." But she's not there to ask anymore. And she should be. She should be. I'm sorry.
Dan Oakes reporting, and that story was produced by Sam Clark.